If Chris Farley was still alive, he would probably make a really excellent Batman. And now I know what you're thinking. Don't confuse excellent with effective.
Ever start playing a game that's a sequel to another game that was critically acclaimed, and you're going through it and having fun, but then later on you just put the controller down and think, well, this was the same as the last, and your next thought is that you're glad you got it for free on PlayStation Plus or Games with Gold. You have no complaints about it because it's good, but you get that feeling of been there, done that. That's how I feel about Arkham City. I purposely put it off for several months after showing it off in my Violence in Games video because I wanted to forget about it, so that way I could come back to it fresh and new. After Arkham Asylum was a critical and commercial success, how do you top that? You made the quintessential Batman game where you really feel like Batman. Well, you go open world, of course. That's really the only direction to go for a Batman game, and it's a good direction to go, too. Rocksteady already had the idea for Arkham City before Arkham Asylum was even finished, even going so far as making a secret room in the Warden's office in Asylum to hint at how the sequel and series would play out. They had the idea of Batman in Gotham and incorporated landmarks that were well known from the comics, going for that authentic Gotham feel instead of having generic streets. While they have an open world, they try to restrict it so that you'd have to think like Batman to survive. Graphically, the game is good, but they don't seem to improve upon anything from Asylum. In fact, I would say that they reused a bunch of assets, which is fine as the graphics from Asylum were pretty good. There's some improvements like more detail, the Batsuit gets the crap beaten out of it more than it did in Asylum. There's more animations too, which also improved upon Asylum. The music is pretty good and feels more Batman-esque than Asylum did, so that's a major improvement for me as music and sound can be very immersive. Batman and the Joker are voiced by Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill again, but this time Harley Quinn is voiced by Tara Strong instead of Arlene Sorkin, of which I'm very conflicted. Tara Strong is a very good voice actress. She does a pretty good job of impersonating Sorkin too, but there's a difference. When Sorkin's Harley gets angry, her voice gets slightly deeper. When Strong's Harley gets mad, her voice gets higher, to the point of sound like Timmy Turner with a Boston accent. Tara Strong brings a more dangerously psychotic, energetic Harley. If you grew up with Batman the Animated Series and the New Adventures of Batman and Robin like I did, Arlene Sorkin is crazy, but she's more dangerously playful, but I can understand for story purposes that she's becoming unhinged.
Just to let you guys know, do you know how hard it was to not call this game a copy and paste job? I could just as easily have said it's Arkham Asylum with a much better story and the review would be over, but also that's kind of an inaccurate blanket statement.
The controls for Arkham City are the same as Arkham Asylum's, and Batman controls just as well. You get the same gadgets with a few new ones like Asylum, but the gadgets feel more situational than combat useful. The smoke pellets are handy when facing a lot of thugs, especially when there's thugs with guns, as it sometimes pops up during combat but is a selectable gadget too. But the grappling hook really comes in handy in this game, as it allows for easy escapes when things get overwhelming, and things can get difficult like piling on enemies with shields and ones covered in armor in tight cramped places. Combat is still the same. You mash the attack button in combination with the counter button to counter incoming attacks or stun enemies with the cape button. It's all well and good and combat works great, but you're fighting the same guys you fought in Arkham Asylum. You have your guy that's hand to hand, the guy with a gun, the armored guy, the guy with knives, and the guy with stun batons, and they all act the same way in Asylum. What I really liked was at one point there's one goon that gives up and lets you interrogate him. One goon gives up and it's for story purposes. Why can't this happen more often? That's pretty cool, and it would break down the monotony if these goons would give up or run away. It would also help speed up the length of the game, as some of these goon fights can take longer than you want, and the fact that hitting each one like 20 times does get really tedious. Don't you think it makes sense that the goons would give up either right away at the sight of Batman or after their friends were taken out? But no, every single one thinks that they can take on Batman, who is a guy that's beaten Bane after his back was broken. And Bane is not only one of the strongest DC characters, but one of the smartest, and had deduced that Bruce Wayne is Batman, depending on continuity. This game would be so much better if the goons would run away or give up, because it would add to that feeling of being Batman, striking fear into the hearts of criminals. But No, that doesn't happen. The boss fights are actually pretty good, too. I enjoyed fighting Solomon Grundy, and Ra's al Ghul was kinda bland, but they did try to make it epic. The Mr. Freeze fight was fun, but pretty easy. The Joker boss felt like the same crap I've been doing with fighting goons, and Clayface felt similar to Solomon Grundy fight, but with its own twist, but that's just me. But for the most part, you're fighting goons that take way too many hits to take down by someone who has trained themselves to the physical peak of human perfection. While fighting outside is more open and lets you escape easily from fights if you get swarmed with goons, but when you're inside, it's not that much different from Arkham Asylum's fighting environments, which is all well and good if you didn't play Asylum first. But if you didn't, then you may be wondering what's going on, because Asylum leads right into City. There's still a level up system where you can upgrade your combat abilities or your gear, although upgrading your ballistic armor doesn't seem to do jack, as you can still get shot to pieces a lot easier than the first game. When it comes to puzzle solving, you'll need to go out of your way, as they're all reserved for the Riddler side missions, so you're not coming across them like you did in Asylum, which makes the main story point feel like you're pretty much just going through it with brute strength rather than actually thinking like Batman. I used detective mode a lot in Asylum because it was pretty mandatory, while in City it feels almost optional, as I use it nowhere near the amount I did in Asylum.
You might be looking at all these gameplay clips and thinking, this looks like Arkham Asylum. Kinda is, really, if you think about it.
The story is pretty good. All of Gotham's villains and lowlives are transported to an area of Gotham called Arkham City, with Hugo Strange being in charge. Some of the villains like the Penguin, Two-Face, and Joker set up their own territories or aren't involved in the turf war, which isn't really touched upon for the main story. The main plot is that Joker is dying due to the Titan overdose from Arkham Asylum and infects Batman with his own blood. While Batman is happy that they'll both die, Joker says that he sent his blood to Gotham's hospitals to force Batman to find a cure. Now that is a Joker plan, unlike wanting his own army of Banes in the previous game. So it's a race against time to find a cure, and Catwoman plays a role in it as well, but really if you got the game new and activated the code to unlock her story missions, which playing as Catwoman is like playing a faster, more agile Batman who can crawl on ceilings. Throughout my playthrough, I was wondering when I was going to get to play as Catwoman again because I was getting bored. While the story is good, it feels like it's trying to cram too much into the game's runtime, so some villains don't get seen that much. The Joker, Mr. Freeze, and Ra's al Ghul having the most screen time during the main storyline. This game also has a lot of DLC. I only got the Catwoman missions because it came with the game when I got it off of PlayStation Plus, but there were tons of pre-order bonuses like having Robin playable in challenge maps, and there was even challenge maps that were pre-order bonuses. There was a Nightwing DLC and Harley Quinn's Revenge as a story-based expansion, but of course if you were smart and waited to get the Game of the Year edition, you got all of it. But is Arkham City a good game? Oh yeah, without a doubt. Is it more of the same? Definitely, but this is a game you play more for its story, which is really good and I enjoyed it. But I think that Arkham Asylum was the better game because you felt like you were Batman. It made better use of all the gadgets and made you think like Batman when it came to combat and how to approach situations. With Arkham City, it feels like I'm just powering through waves of enemies without putting much thought into it. It feels like I went for more of an action brawler style of game while dialing down the stealth, which I think is due to the game going open world. And with Arkham Origins being criticized for being more of the same, I think I'm going to put that off for a good long time. I think the problem with Arkham City and probably the rest of the series is that Rocksteady didn't know why Asylum was so good. Asylum was small and focused, and it combined the perfect mixture of beat 'em up stealth gameplay and puzzle solving. In Asylum, you could pretty much go through the entire game doing stealth takedowns if you wanted to. Arkham City seems to prefer a more headstrong approach, diving into groups of enemies and beating the crap out of them with some stealth elements sprinkled in.
When it comes down to it, the story is well worth the price of admission. But when it comes to gameplay, it's kinda more of the same. It's done pretty well, but it also really delivers less on that Batman experience that Arkham Asylum gave us.